Welcome to Haunt Weekly.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jonathan.
I'm Crystal.
And this is Haunt Weekly, a weekly podcast for the haunted attraction haunt entertainment community. Whether you're an actor, owner, or just plain aficionado, we aim to be a podcast for you. And we come to you again this week after more than our share of chicanery and tomfoolery and trying to get this one to work. For some reason, the tech gods were against us this week. And tech that worked absolutely flawlessly before we hit the go stream button collapsed upon hitting the stream button. So we are not going to do the live show this week, but we have a special guest this week. Amanda Reevenge is with us, actor extraordinaire. So many things we're going to say about her in just a minute. I'll save the gushing intro for later. How's that?
Yeah.
That sounds wise, because we have a few things we have to get through first, among which, give us a follow, give us a like, give us a subscribe. We're very needy people. You can do so at hauntweekly.com, Haunt Weekly on Twitter, Haunt Weekly on Facebook, or even at youtube.com/hauntweekly, which is our YouTube channel. Wherever you may find us, we are there. That includes Google Play, iTunes, Stitcher, etc., etc., etc. Also, we want to announce, since we're not doing the live chat this week, and since we were having a guest anyway, and we don't want to take too much time from her, we're not going to do a new question of the week.
Right.
But we do want to announce last week's winner.
Yes, that would be Joseph Bradley. He draws inspiration from nature documentaries because damn nature, you scary. Quote from him.
And the question last week was, what unexpected source gives you inspiration for haunting? And that was a good one. That was a really good answer. There was actually a lot of good answers this week.
Yeah.
It was very difficult to choose, but we went Joseph Bradley. So, yes, we're not doing a question of the week this week. However, housekeeping note, I guess it's now a two-part housekeeping note. First part is we have not been feeling well.
Right.
I was out of commission much of last week due to stomach bug issues.
Right. Enough that you went to a doctor.
Yeah, enough that I went to a doctor of all people. I am pretty much the only way I'm going to a doctor is if it's a mortician. But yes, I actually went to a doctor. That's how serious it got. I'm feeling much better now, obviously, but we didn't get the letters done for the winners for the last month. Those will be going out Tuesday when post office reopens.
Yeah.
And you were not feeling well either. And you've also been slammed with work because of the time of year. So it's that time. It's the wonderful time of year. So we will be getting those out Tuesday or Wednesday, probably.
Yes.
So yes, as I mentioned earlier, we have a guest this week, and I'm very, very excited about this. We've been looking forward to this for quite some time. It's Amanda Reevenge.
Hey,
there's a good chance. Yes, she is here. Believe it or not, she decided to join two schmucks like us. I'm very happy to have you here. Amanda, you probably have seen her in a bunch of the haunting groups on Facebook. She's been very active in several of those.
Right.
Actor extraordinaire, works at a lot of different haunts, has 12 years experience, I believe.
Yes, 2008. This year is lucky number 13 for me.
12 years experience haunting. I don't know if lucky, it's you. You're the reason. You fucked it up for everyone.
Yeah, that's, I keep telling my haunt this, I'm like, well, not my haunt, the haunt that I work at. I'm like, man, it's my 13th year. I'm sorry. I might have cursed us. I'm sorry.
We found the source, everyone. Get her.
it was me. Sorry, guys.
Obviously, we're kidding, but yeah. So yes, this would be your 13th season. Don't know if it will be or not. Obviously that's not us to determine.
Yeah.
But yes, well, thank you for coming on. I'm going to let Crystal take the lead here.
Okay. Well, I was actually going to toss it to Amanda. Amanda, tell us about yourself.
Oh, yeah,
Who are you?
As far as asking the question for taking the lead.
All right. Hi, I'm Amanda. I like long walks on the... No, just kidding. Yeah, so I've been now haunting for this year going on 13 years, so since 2008. I travel... what I do is I'm kind of a traveling actor / builder normally, and actor trainer. I basically wear a bunch of different hats. So I do escape rooms, I do haunting. I used to work on movie sets, but I kind of put that on the back burner to continue a career in the haunted house industry. which has been really fun and exciting, and definitely a wild ride. I go to a bunch of different haunted houses, and depending on the year, I'll either just guest act or I'll do actor training, management training, makeup. But some years I like to kind of settle down, like a little like I just got married to the haunted house, and I'll be with a haunt a full season and help them out in whatever way that I can.
Okay. So how did you first get started into haunting?
So I first got started back in 2007. Little 15-year-old me hadn't ever had a job, and I really liked The Nightmare Before Christmas, and I was into theater, so I thought about haunted houses and how afraid I was to go in them, but I was like, oh, maybe I can work it win one. So I tried to apply to this haunted house, and they told me I was too young. So then I was like, well, shoot. So then the next year came around, and I applied to the same haunt, and the day of my interview, they shut the whole haunt down.
Oh, gosh.
Who is they? The owners or like fire marshals or?
The owners shut the entire haunt down. I'm not exactly sure what happened, but that haunt never reopened its doors, which is kind of sad because I also never saw it because I was a big scaredy cat. So I never got to see their show, but one of my friends had called me and told me about this place called Nightmare New England and how he had just applied and gotten in and I should apply. And then I was like, oh, I don't know. And then I was so Nightmare New England was in Litchfield, New Hampshire, and they were on a family fun park. So it had golf carts, not golf carts,
go-karts. I don't know. It might be golf carts.
Yeah, golf carts.
Some of those bunch of family fun parks might.
Yeah, they did have golf carts, but they had go-karts and mini golf and batting cages and stuff like that. And then in 2008, they were opening a haunted house. So one day I was there and I was looking at the poster that they had and I was like, that looks scary. I am never going. And I turned and walked out the door. And then about a week later, I put in my application. I was like, maybe I should try. So at the time I was still going to school and I hadn't heard back from them. And it was 2 days before opening. So I kept calling and calling like a really annoying teenager would call somebody so much. And or like maybe a crazy person. I'm pretty sure I looked crazy on the bus, like with my little flip phone. I was like, oh, please answer. But I got an interview, an on-the-phone interview on the school bus on the way home. And they told me to come in. So I came in and I got hired on spot. Like the day before they ever opened its doors because it was their first year.
So this is something that's interesting to me because it's something that we've seen.
Yeah,
people who are really scared of haunted houses usually do pretty well acting in them. But what made you take that step to want to try to act in it if you had not been through one?
So in all honesty, I didn't know at all what I was getting myself into. I was like, oh, well, I do theater, so it's like improv acting.
Right.
And at the time, I didn't even really watch horror movies to the extent that I do now. Like I did watch them, but I was still kind of scared of them. So I really wanted a job. And, my mom was like, oh, you have to finish school before you get a job. And I was like, oh, well, what about an acting job? Because that's what I was really passionate in. And she's like, oh, okay, you can try for an acting job. I was like, oh, okay, sweet. So haunted houses, it just felt like the perfect one step below Disney World at that time to me. Right. I was like, oh, it's like acting at Disney. Like, this will be fine. I literally went in there blind. I'm really surprised I didn't go worse. Like it could have gone so like it could have like the whole I could have fallen apart. But not only go in there blind, I went in there literally the day before they opened, I got hired. So like there was no actor training. Like I didn't have a handbook. My very first night there, they didn't know where I was going. So I spent like all the time like, hey, where am I going? And they were like, I don't know. I was like, oh, that's very helpful.
Okay. So
but
what did you wind up doing that first night? What was your very first acting gig
so
at a haunted house?
my manager, Todd, who I love to death, and I'm still very good friends with my very first manager ever. He found me and he was like, hey, do you know what haunt you're going to? And I was like, no, I don't really know. And he's like, oh, you're with me now. I was like, cool. So it was this haunt called Buried Alive, because at the time they had 4 attractions there. They had, and they used to make you go through one throughout the other. So it went Buried Alive, Raven's Claw, Freak Show, and then Sleep Stalkers. And those were, at least, I think all 3 of those were made by Oak Island Productions. So I was in Buried Alive, which was kind of the, your first room was like a funeral, and then you went and got buried, and it was kind of the undergrounds of getting buried, so you had to push past like dead bodies. And they had the just bad smell in there, and it was really gross. But so I was like the zombie thing, my bobber. And the funny thing was when they brought me through the house, so they went to the back to the front, right? I had my eyes closed the entire time, so I had no idea what was going on. Like I was that afraid that like the lights were like off and everything, because it was like an hour and I closed my eyes. I was like, I'm not opening my eyes. Are you crazy? And so like
I've never understood that fear instinct.
Yeah,
you're not the first to say, but I am so scared if something's going to hurt me. I'm going to make sure I can't see it hurt me.
Yeah, it was just like
so it's a weird reflex, but a lot of people have it.
Like for me, it was like the loud noise aspect. So I just thought like closing my eyes and plugging my ears would like be efficient and I would figure it out. But like that's how nervous and scared I was back in the day. But which is it's kind of funny looking back at that moment now. But they dropped me off in the room, and like it was this web tech room. And so it was like a web tech maze with all strobe light. And for those of you who don't know what web tech is, it's like this like black plasticky almost material that is like spider web, so you can still see through it, but like an average customer wouldn't be able to see through it. You'd have to know where you're looking. So they dropped me off in that room, and like little did I know that was probably the scariest room to some people. Because right before that they had to go through a claustrophobia bag, and they came out into my room. But my very first group I swore at because so they scared me. It's like, oh fuck. And it was all uphill from there.
But you can't go much further downhill. I mean,
yeah, I know.
The advantage of having a bad first experience is you can't go down.
Like, at least I didn't say boo or get out. Like, I don't know.
I can't remember who said it. I think it was like my second grade teacher said, every morning you wake up, eat a live frog. Nothing worse can happen to you the rest of the day.
That's true. That's a
very weird teacher.
Yes, I did. I think it was in a children's book she read to us. I'm thinking elements of my childhood were more messed up than I thought.
Yeah, probably.
What children's book is that, and where can I read it?
I'll dig it up for later.
Inspiration. Haunted house inspiration. But anyways, so from there, I started seeing a bunch of little kids come through the haunts, and I started to feel bad for them. So I made up this character who later would be known as Demonia. She doesn't get her name until 2009, though, so I did some research, and then I guess so when kids are going through scary things that are new and exciting, or not even scary necessarily, just like new things or places they've never been, if they're overly stimulated, they're going to start focusing on things that they haven't seen before and not pay attention to things that are familiar. So I came up with this character who started saying these like weird, twisted nursery rhymes that I made up. So for example, Mary had a little lamb, his fleece is as red as blood was one of my go-to and still is. I still bring that out every now and again. But I would start saying the first half is cute, but the second half scares the adults. And then I came up with her laugh, and I started getting really into character and doing some research. And I kind of based her off of what I had seen at the time of The Exorcist. Just like the demonic presence I kind of gravitated to, because I thought that was like a really cool aspect for a female to be like a demon instead of like a victim, because at the time there wasn't like a lot of, luckily at Nightmare New England the first year, there wasn't a lot of like female victims, but I had seen that elsewhere. So I was like, well, I don't want to be a victim. I'd rather be a villain. So I started really researching how I could bring that villain aspect to a whole nother level.
Yeah, that's really good, because a lot of times you do see that where it's exclusively women victims, no male victims.
And the first haunt we did together, that's how it was.
Yeah.
All the women, pretty much across the board, were victims.
Yeah.
And that was, looking back on it, it was really messed up. I really want to do a haunt one year where we have like the tiniest, girliest girl be the killer and have the biggest, burliest guy.
We have that in our haunt staff.
We theoretically could arrange it with the haunt staff we have now.
Yes.
We have like a 45-pound teenage girl.
Yeah.
It's like if you blow one the wrong way, she's going to drift off.
Every haunt that I like teach at and train at, I try to implement that somewhere. I'm like, hey, you guys should have, because to me, it's scarier if like the big dude is in the cage, because then like thinking about it, like, oh man,
what did she do to get him in there?
Yeah. Like, that's not an easy thing to do, right? Like,
right.
And so, like, for me, that's psychologically scarier than having a female victim.
Yeah, yeah. And when you flip the script on people's expectations, it always gets a reaction.
Yeah. And it makes people as a haunt more memorable. Like, you're going to remember something like that.
Right.
It's not going to fade in.
So when and how did you start doing guest acting at multiple haunts and being a traveling actor instead of sticking at one haunt?
So I started that, I think it was 2010. So basically I had gone to a couple of MHCs, and I started going to MHC and trade shows and conventions. And for a while, Tater actually had this joke where, like, because he had never seen my real face. That's how much I was in character. He's like, what do you even look like under there? He's like, are you just going to, like, live your life like that?
What, Tater had a joke? No. Yeah. Impossible.
Yeah. No, not Tater. Not
no.
Tater around. No. But, he would say that to me constantly. I was like, it's just because I'm in character so much. But
that just means you could have robbed him and he never would have been able to identify.
Yeah. But because of me being in character so much, that got me, I guess, noticed. And then I had some haunts approaching me, asking me to come out and see their show, and like come act with them. So I started acting at some other shows. I think the very first notable one was Dream Reapers back in 2012. Had a pretty much the very first well-known Christmas attraction in the whole Christmas haunting. Like, their Christmas haunting wasn't really a thing back then, but right. Dream Reapers had it. And I showed up to go through, and all of a sudden I was guest acting. So I traveled from New Hampshire to Chicago just to see that show because I really wanted to see it. And by that point, I had gotten over my fear of haunted houses.
Right.
Luckily, thanks to MHC, the first haunted house I ever walked through was the Haunted Hoochie in Ohio. So I literally went from 0 to 100.
Yeah. We that is not on our list to visit whenever
Ohio,
we go to Ohio.
But that's how I went to a touch hunt first of all things to go through. It's like, yeah, sure, bring the kid who's afraid of haunted houses through a touch hunt. I think we'll be fine.
Well, but once again, starting at the worst, probably.
That's how my dad introduced me to roller coasters.
Yeah.
So I said, Dad, I want to get on a roller coaster. And he took me to a roller coaster that at the time had the highest single drop in all of Southeast United States.
Yeah.
This is your starter coaster, old wooden rickety one with like an 8,000-foot drop right at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, like, the thing is, too, with that, like, if you love it, you're like, okay, but what's better than this now? Like,
Yeah.
You go.
Yeah.
So that's how I started kind of guest acting. And then I had been teaching or helping to teach theater stuff to kids for like summer camps. And so then I started working training into my haunted house spectrum. So I started really researching on how I could train people. And I started coming up with all these games and exercises and figuring out like the best way to help people scare other people, and figuring out how to empower women, especially because a lot of places I did go to had the all-female victims. And I still, to this day, get messages from female haunters saying, hey, my haunt only wants me as this victim who's like bloody with tight clothes. Like, how can I branch out and be a villain? How can I be scary? How can females be scary?
Right.
Sometimes you got to change haunts. I mean, my experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in some places, it's just the areas that they're in. Like, it's like a whole common thing between like different haunts. It's not necessarily a haunt's fault or whatever, but that's just how it's run for 30 years. And they haven't really mixed it up a lot.
Yeah, I don't think we saw our first female scare actor, not first female victim, until we got out of South Carolina into New Orleans.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even then it's hard to find
even then it was
here.
rough for a while, and it's gotten better.
Yeah.
A lot of the haunts are doing better now, but it
Yeah, but I mean, that's the two haunts that I've worked at, and I've mentioned it before. I was put in either victim or mom roles, which is just...
Yeah, it's female mom or sex pot role.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like, I want to be scary. Like, I want to be dirty. I want to be scary. I want to be gross. Even though I do Demonia as the schoolgirl character, I've been trying to retire her and nobody will let me. It's kind of funny. But just because I do that character so much. You play a little kid character. I was like, yeah, but like, she's kind of not... I've never once said, come play with me. That's something to note. I've never once said that. I did have a makeup artist put it on my forehead once, and I was like very unhappy about it, but it was fine. I just got through it. But I've never said, come play with me, and I'm not the cutesy little girl. I'm the very evil, twisted, demonic Demonia.
Yeah.
Name has demon in it.
Yeah, and I found that, it is unsettling for people whenever you see things like that with the, with...
No, I'm saying how.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
But
Sorry.
You're distracting me from my thoughts. Anyway, no, so whenever people are going through haunts and they, hear the nursery rhyme or something like that, something that sounds like it should be really familiar, but then it just gets twisted. And it throws a lot of people off. I know that one year here, I was singing the Itsy Bitsy Spider in our haunt for a ceiling drop as the distraction, and I could hear people talking about the song being sung after they left,
Yeah.
And it's just like, so if I were going through a haunt and I heard your nursery rhyme, I would probably be like, wait, did she just say that?
Yeah. It's very M. Night Shyamalan. It's like a twist ending every time.
Yeah.
But yeah. Oh, I didn't even say the most notable thing about 2008, which is how I kind of got to where I am. One night, so I had mentioned at Nightmare New England, you had to go through Buried Alive, Raven's Claw, Freak Show, and then Sleep Stalkers. It was an order. So because I was in the first haunt, that line all of a sudden became massive. I don't think they were expecting that type of crowd on opening weekend. So at the time that we didn't have any key line characters, so my manager threw me and this other kid in the queue line my second night there ever.
Wow.
And I had no idea, what to do. Like I just winged it. We got the crowd calmed down because there was a riot in the crowd. So they just threw actors out there, like to try to settle it down and give them some entertainment.
Wow.
It worked, and I've been queue line acting ever since, which gave me a really good read on people and what to watch out for. I always call queue line actors second security. But that's how I learned how to scare out in the open too and be effective when you're not just in the dark.
No, it's a very good point. And we've talked to several people who work queue lines, and that sentiment is echoed, I think, across the industry, that queue line actors are the first line of defense.
I would say someone that does queue line, it's security, yes, but I think it's crowd control more than outright security, because, I'm not the person that's going to necessarily be the one throwing people out. But I have the responsibility of managing the crowd, keeping the flow going, getting the cattle where they need to be.
Yeah. And you're basically like watching out for who's drunk, who's going to be a problem. And a lot of the times I will follow groups who I know are going to be a problem. So I can keep an eye on them. And most of the times I'm pretty spot on with problem groups, but it's all about trying to de-escalate situations before they get to the height of the fist fight. So, it's very, I learned a lot. And for being how young I was and how kind of naive I was, I'm really surprised that I did as well as I did. Because at that age, I didn't really know about like how drunk people could get or how mean people could be, or like I didn't see that side of society yet. So I just kind of learned on the fly, and then kind of really opened my eyes to like this whole other world of like people in general, and how to navigate through life. Because when I started haunting, I was that shy kid who didn't talk to anybody. I was that kid who like would get picked on constantly get picked on at school, shoved into lockers, stuff like that. So for me, haunting was like my safety net.
Right. Yeah, I was that kid, so I understand that completely. So did you, we've heard about how you've had to learn on the fly. Did you ever receive actor training at any of the haunts you would eventually work at?
So I took some like actor training stuff at MHC. I did a couple of their classes. I was lucky enough to sit in on a couple of Alan Hops's exercises. Right. I was working with Dark Hour and just kind of how they brought their crew together, and how they really, did all the hakas, which I thought were cool. And now implemented hakas where I go, which, for me, I kind of did my own silent haka before that anyways, because this is about to sound really nerdy, but what kind of got me into theater and acting was the Lord of the Rings. So the Lord of the Rings got me into wanting to do makeup effects, and then also got me wanting to act because I fell in love with those movies. But in the behind the scenes of Lord of the Rings, all the orcs were doing hakas. So I always thought that was like the coolest thing ever. I was like, oh, that's so cool. I want to do that too. What are they saying? So I started doing a lot of research on New Zealand and hakas and stuff like that. So whenever Alan had brought that into haunting, I was like, oh my God, it's like the Lord of the Rings. I got excited. I was like, that's a cool thing to do with your cast.
Yeah. That is cool.
I was lucky enough to sit on a couple. And, even in some of these classes, if I didn't necessarily learn a whole bunch, I always walked away with one new thing, which to me, that's worth it. If you take a class and you walk away with one new thing, it's worth what you're paying for.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. So through all your experiences, what's your favorite thing about being a haunt actor and haunting in general?
I think, my favorite thing is the creative side of it. Because I get to, display my art and my passion and my love to not only customers, but like other friends and colleagues that are in haunting. And I'll sit there and I'll share pictures of stuff I'm doing, and they'll send me pictures, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. And we learn and we grow off each other as an industry. And to me, that's what one of my favorite things is just the learning and growing and, the haunted house community side of things, the good side of the community where people are kind and nice, and, we all go to MHC and sit down and have beers or whatever, or soda or water or margaritas or whatever.
Drinks.
Drinks.
Beverages.
Beverages, yeah. Coffee, for me, it's like 30 cups of coffee.
I feel like we need iced tea to sit here and list the beverages.
Iced tea. What are we missing? But MHC really sold haunting for me back when Kathy and Barry and Nina and Kelly were running it, because it was just such a really eye-opening experience that there was this whole other world of people who were kind of misfits like I was,
right?
Coming together and creating cool stuff that customers get scared of. It's just like weird niche that I found myself fitting into, and all honesty, like I really, really loved being in character.
Right.
I loved playing characters and like acting and like giving people an experience they won't be able to experience necessarily the same way anywhere else.
Yeah. Yeah, that is one of the beautiful things about haunting.
Mm-hmm.
So since you're a traveling actor, how do you self-promote so that you can let people know that you're available and when you're available in what areas?
So a couple years ago, I did make a promotional video because I really did a lot of research in what other people in other industries do, like the acting industry and stuff like that, to promote themselves. So actors have actor reels and stuff, and videographers have video reels.
Right.
So I was like, well, I can kind of incorporate that into haunting and do like a haunting reel, because really, really, I don't just act. I also do build and scenic design and costuming and makeup. I also do quote unquote booth babing, which is a booth sales rep, but they call it booth babing because they love alliteration. I mean, me too. But, I do all these kind of different hats. So I just made a reel to display everything that I can and could do for attractions. And I put it out there, and, I promote on Facebook and YouTube, and I used to do Instagram a lot, but not so much anymore. To see who needs what. And sometimes, like, I'll get messages or I'll have actors messaging me for their owner because I'm friends with a lot of people in the industry. So sometimes I'll get messages from actors being like, hey, like, my owner wants to know when you're available. Here's his number. Please give him a call. So I really try to put myself out there as much as possible. And then I do go to trade shows and I'll sit there and I'll talk with other haunters and ask them what they need, if they need anything for their attractions, to see if there's anything else I can add to my services as well.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, that is one of the things about the haunt industry that I've noticed is that there's, in a way, it's like such a pull to become a haunt family.
Right.
That push to be a family member, family first approach can often lead to pushback against self-promotion or doing, and it can lead, in some cases, we've actually covered stories about where it's led to outright bullying.
Right.
Where they've used that haunt family pressure to pressure people to skip, funerals for their actual family.
Yes.
I've seen it take some extremes. You've been all around. One of the advantages of a traveling actor is you've seen haunts of all stripes, all varieties, all shapes, all sizes. What is your thought on that? Because being a self-promoting actor, how does that run up against this haunt family mentality?
Yeah, so it's kind of weird. Not weird, but the haunt family thing often I see, and I totally agree with you guys. I see this so much where that is used as a like almost like a weapon. They weaponize that word. And they're like, oh, like, what about your haunt family? You're going to leave us?
You're going to abandon us in our time of need? It's haunt season.
Go to this haunt or whatever, That was never used on me, luckily. Luckily, everyone I had worked for was very cool about it. But, it's just, it gets so bad when that happens because, you start off feeling really, really important in a haunted house and they give you all these things and then all of a sudden, like, you're trying to do your own thing and they're like, well, you can't do that. Well, why can't I? Oh, you just can't. Like, you're a part of us. You can't do that. And I've seen that,
Yeah.
I've also seen instances where they get mad at their actors for even going to another attraction, even though they're not open. I've seen that happen. I've seen some stuff.
Ridiculous.
That's bullshit. I'm just going to say it. That's bullshit.
Like whenever I saw that, I was like, what? I don't get it. I don't get it.
How do you get better and get better ideas if you don't see what other haunts are doing?
Exactly.
How do you have fun during October? Like if you're not open, like, if you're like a haunter deep down through and through, like if you're not open, you're going to see another haunted attraction.
Yeah, exactly.
And one of the things we like about being home haunters is we only work, 3-4 nights a year. Yeah. It gives us the rest of the season to go to haunts.
Yeah,
It's one of the reasons we do it this way.
Yeah. Which is great, I wish I had the time to see more haunts, which is why I started traveling so I could see more haunts.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
No.
Have you ever had to step in for one of the haunt actors at a haunt that you were working?
Yeah,
one of the regulars.
A couple of times. One time I was at a haunt, and I'd just done an actor training for this haunt, and the owner goes, "Oh, you're in charge for the night. Bye," and left me in charge of all the actors. And I was like,
"What?"
Yeah, I was like, "What?"
You're your problem now, kiddo.
Yeah, it was like their opening night, and I was like, "Are you sure?" I mean, luckily I knew what I was doing, because if I didn't, I guess that would have been bad. I was like, "Wow, you have a lot of faith in me." And I was like, "All right, everyone's fired." Like, I'm just kidding, but that was, I think, the weirdest thing that's ever happened to me. That's how far I've stepped in, though. And I'll do if an actor goes out, like last year I was working at a haunt, one of their actors stepped off of something weird and like rolled their ankle. So I did step in their place to help the haunt out because they were in like a big main role. And, I didn't mind because, they really needed somebody there. So I was like, oh, okay, I'll do it. But now I have it. So because I offer various levels of me participating in stuff. So like, if I'm doing a promo video with them and acting, it's a little bit of a different price range than just acting, and stuff like that.
All right. Well, this is a question I have to sneak in at some point, and I haven't found my moment to sneak it in, so we're sneaking it in now. Okay. This is the least stealthy sneak in history. But every time I get a scare actor on the show, I have one question I ask every time. What is your most memorable scare?
My most memorable scare.
Everybody's got my experience.
I have one, and it's terrible.
Okay.
So when I was working in Nightmare, New England, and on top of being a queue line actor, I was also a breaker, which is you go and you give breaks, people water, stuff like that. They're called different things in different parts of the country and stuff. So we call them breakers. So I was breaking this section of a haunt, and so you had to duck under a claustrophobia bag, come up, there was this little like cubby hole, and then you would turn and go into a claustrophobia bag. So it was like an under and then an in. So that little cubby hole was to make sure people got in or used the bypass. Oh, dust just went up my nose. Excuse me. So it knew I was telling this story. So anyways, you can't see when people are coming up through the claustrophobia bag, like under it, like you can't see down the hallway. You can't see who's coming. You just walk out as soon as they come up and then point to go in the claustrophobia bag or whatever you need to do. So this couple came up out of it, and they must have been 75, maybe. Yeah. And so I scared them because I didn't know it was like an older couple either, right? And I would have given them the same show anyways because they paid however much they paid to get in. So the lady starts clutching her chest and going down, right? But the thing was, so I broke character right away, and I was like, hey, I'm a scare actor. I can get you out of here. I can get you help. What do you need? And they start signing. They are both deaf. I was like, what the? I was like, I was 17. I was like, this is just my luck. So I had to run out the front, stop the entire show, grab my manager, be like, I just gave a deaf lady a heart attack. You have to come in. So luckily she was okay. But that was probably my most memorable scare.
Wow.
Just because of how hectic it was and how unexpected. After that, I was like, I should probably learn sign language, which I'm still on my list of things to do. It just got way too long. And there's some other stuff. But
if you need help learning sign language, I might actually have resources for you. I actually speak sign.
Oh, awesome.
I grew up, my brother is hearing impaired, so I grew up speaking it and speaking English at the same time. I learned both about equal pace with one another.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's something I've been wanting to do too, so I can give every customer...
You will win every game of charades.
Yeah, yes. I would love that. I'd win. But I also want to learn it so I could give every customer like a very unique experience. So if we do have deaf customers, I can actually interact with them in character, which I do know some things. Like I learned like you're gonna die. And then like I'll do kind of like just simple ones like throat slit and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of fun.
Probably "You're Gonna Die" would not be the thing to sign to the lady, though, that you scared.
No,
I was just clutching her chest.
that would have not helped me in that instance. I would, I'd,
There's so
if,
many
if
songs
that
we don't
was
know.
the only thing I do, I would have been like, well, I can't use this.
Right.
Can't use this. But that was
I would
definitely
like
like the
Haunt,
memorable one.
maybe something we could do in a later episode is
Okay.
useful signs for Haunt. It'd be difficult to do an audio-only podcast, but learn signs like wait, stop, hold
Yeah.
up, easy,
Yeah.
the commands you give for crowd control.
I'm a scare actor. I can get you out of here would be helpful.
I can help.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I work here.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah, so that's definitely my most memorable one. A fun one.
Yeah, let's go for a fun one too.
A fun one was my very first year of haunting. I got my first shitter in, right? And it was this lady, and to this day, the old crew of Nightmare New England still call it the shit heard around the world because it traveled through every single other attraction that I had done this to this woman. So anyways, so she was walking through the haunt, and we were, again, the first one she had to walk through. And I jumped out of this lady, and I did my laugh, and I called for mommy, and I said my nursery rhyme, and I made her shit her pants. Now, the thing about this shit in her pants business was she was wearing white pants. So she was wearing like brand new, like don't wear white after Labor Day pants, like brand new. Must have been very expensive, but you could see the stain. Like it was bad. That's how bad it was.
Yeah.
And instead of going home or anything to change, she walked her through the rest of the haunts like that.
Wow.
So that was most memorable.
Yeah, someone, I can't remember which comedian it was. Comedian said that if you're an adult and you crap your pants, every thought you have in your brain is you crap your pants until you get the crap out of your pants.
Yeah, I don't know how she went through, and I don't even think she was drunk or anything. Maybe she was, but it was like everybody heard about it. So all night long, like I was getting, hey, Amanda, I heard you made somebody crap themselves. Actually, I saw it too. I was like, what? I was like, that's awesome. I was like, I guess. Because I didn't see it. My manager was right behind me at the time that I did it, and he had followed that group, and he saw it. Because I was in the pitch darkness. So, luckily, she didn't leave a smell trail in my room, but...
Yeah.
Oh, that's good news. That's good news. So... we got just a few more minutes left. Is there anything else you want to talk about? Anything else you want to discuss? The floor is yours.
Awesome. So, yeah. So, you know, I definitely think haunting is a very amazing thing. I do think it has its kind of dark sides that I've been noticing quite recently, which is the bullying that goes on between other industry members through social media. And quite recently, this has gotten so bad that a couple of people have quit haunting over it. And it's really, really sad. It's very sad.
And we've noticed at our haunt, since we only operate 3 days a year, one thing that happens is a lot of people that get that treatment at other haunts come to us as sort of I don't want to quit haunting, but I can't deal with this.
Yeah.
We get a lot of those, and they work out great. It's
right.
I wish they didn't have that experience still, though.
I know. And recently, there's been a bunch of memes floating around targeting like sliders and certain type of haunt actors. And like for me, like I'm like, imagine you're a haunt actor and you think pouring blood on yourself is the coolest thing in the world. And like you think you're doing the haunt a great service by pouring blood all over yourself. And then you go online and you see people making fun of the type of person you are when nobody had ever talked to you about why that might not be cool to do. And like that, like for me, like that would would have like killed me inside if I saw that when I was younger.
I can see that. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Like, and a lot of it is, I think that, the haunted house industry is a $2 billion industry that is still looked at as a hobby to a lot of people. So you have people like me who have my hands in many different hats, and I'm trying to market myself and really make this my profession, and I get picked on the internet for it. There quite recently there was a bunch of people making fun of booth babes. I don't really know why. Because booth babes are sales representatives. Every Comic-Con, every convention has them. So why is it a bad thing to be somebody who dresses up in costume at a booth?
Right. Well, and it kind of reminds me of, in art school, they told me, don't be Blue Dog. Blue Dog is a famous painting in New Orleans.
Or famous artist who was a famous passed recently.
His name isn't Blue Dog, though.
I know.
But his painting that's famous is Blue Dog.
And it is what he's famous for, painting paintings of blue dogs.
Yeah. Basically, it's just this weird little dog, and he did a ton of them. And that's how he made his living, And so now, as I'm older and wiser, I'm like, I wish I could hit on an idea that was a blue dog, because then I could make my money doing that and
use my free time for whatever the hell I wanted to do.
Time to do my other passions,
Right.
But yes, I don't know why there's such a
pushback.
And I think the problem partly is that this is a creative industry, and all creative industries have a pushback against quote-unquote selling out. Now, I don't think selling out is a thing.
No.
Make your goddamn money.
Exactly. I mean, if you're going to try to make a career out of it, then you've got to make money.
Musicians, filmmakers, poets, writers, everyone faces that pushback against selling out, against trying to make an actual profit. We idolize the starving artist. We idolize the suffering haunter.
Exactly.
We idolize these caricatures that don't exist, A.
No.
And B, if they did exist, they'd be fucking terrible to live as.
Yeah, exactly.
And for me, I haven't had the easiest life. Like, I definitely wasn't handed anything on a silver platter, and I've just tried to make the best do with what I've got. So being emotionally tormented on the internet by people who want to say that costuming and actor training and being a quote-unquote booth babe / sales representative, whichever words you guys want to use the most, is a bad thing. I don't really think it is a bad thing. I think, this is a $2 billion industry that has a lot of room for growth and opportunity, even though it's only once a month. For some people, it's not just once a month. You go to the conventions, you're a vendor, you are me, and you go build haunts, and you scenic design, and you plan out attractions, and then you go into the escape room stuff. It's a entire industry that has spots for everyone. And a lot of times, from traveling especially, I found that a lot of people who join haunted houses to begin with have something in their life that they are missing. So, like, they're the weirdos, the outcasts. They're the people who maybe don't have many friends. They come from broken homes. They need an escape from life. So these types of people that are being picked on already don't have it easy to begin with. So why are people just slapping them in the face back and forth online? Like, a good example too of this type of behavior is I was on Hunter's Hangout not long ago, and I had asked a question because I had a couple of haunts steal my promotional photos that another haunt had taken of me and used them on their website. So they stole my face and put it as their main characters on their website. So I was like, hey guys, like, how do I take my face off the hunt? Like, I don't want to be mean. But it's like, I don't work there, and I didn't give them, I charge for this to be used in promotions, and I didn't give them permission.
Right.
So on Hunter's Hangout, I had people commenting like, oh, well, who the hell are you? You're not important enough for people to use your face. I was like, what? That's not, I didn't say I was important. I didn't say it was unimportant. I said that this was happening and I needed help because my face was being used for advertising.
Yeah. And,
You know, like it's a mute point.
Okay.
You know, and I think there's definitely a lot of misunderstandings that go on in the industry, again, because people are viewing it as a hobby and not as a profession. And then people who are trying to do it professionally are just getting ragged on by people who are viewing it as a hobby. And sometimes they're getting ragged on and bullied out of the industry by other people in their profession.
Okay.
yeah.
I think that's a good note to actually end it on. Our hour's just about up, and the idea of treating the haunt industry more as a profession and less as a hobby, I think, is a good place to leave that. That's a good thought.
Yeah.
Something I think everyone can think about and take away from this.
Yeah.
Well, Amanda, thank you so much for joining us. We are out of time, but we thank you for coming on. We thank you for talking openly and candidly with us. And like I said, a lot of great stuff here all around. I'm hoping that in spite of the technical issues we had earlier, that people will get this message and we will find ways to help get it out there. But on that note, everyone, thank you for those listening for spending the past hour with us. We greatly appreciate your time. And this is, once again, thanks to Amanda for joining us and helping to fill it and bringing her insight. This has been Haunt Weekly, episode number
249.
240. I never remember the episode numbers. You can find more Haunt Weekly at hauntweekly.com, Haunt Weekly on Twitter, Haunt Weekly on Facebook, Haunt Weekly on Facebook, and youtube.com/Haunt Weekly is our YouTube channel. Until next time, I'm Jonathan.
I'm Crystal.
And we will see you guys next week.